when The Fellowship of the Ring graced theaters on December 19, 2001. The world sensed a shift in the cinematic tides. Jackson spent 15 months in New Zealand capturing a vision that would change cinema history. He gambled $280 million by filming the entire trilogy at once. A feat of pure faith. 3,359 theaters flickered to life on opening night. It hauled in $47 million in 3 days, eventually amassing $871 million before the journey truly ended. By the time The Return of the King claimed 11 Oscars in 2004, the very boundaries of fantasy had been rewritten forever. Most of the Fellowship members left the set with the Elvish symbol for 9 etched into their skin as a badge of brotherhood. One of them sat it out, sending his stunt double to face the needle in his stead. The paths they took after the ring was destroyed are chapters worth remembering in their own right. First, we have Elijah Wood, the boy who became Frodo Baggins and carried the weight of the world through 3 epic films. He took that cursed gold from the rolling hills of the Shire to the jagged edges of Doom to get the part. The young actor stepped into the woods to film his own audition tape under the trees. He wore a makeshift hobbit suit he made himself, knowing a sterile office could never hold the soul of a halfling. Born on January 28, 1981, in the heart of Cedar Rapids, Iowa. He was far from Middle-earth. At just 18, when filming started in late 1999, he was the very first soul officially cast in The Fellowship, picked from 150 hopefuls on July 7, 1999. His homemade video captured something the others lacked, that raw, outdoor footage convinced Peter Jackson that the quest had found its hero before it even began. Not many realized that Jake Gyllenhaal nearly wore the ring, missing the part by just a hair. His chance slipped away due to a simple mix-up over whether the Shire spoke with an American tongue. Once the journey ended, Wood stepped away from the bright lights of blockbusters toward the quiet corners of indie cinema. He sought out strange shadows and experimental voices, carving a path that felt uniquely his own. By 2010, he was building Spectre Vision, a home for bold horror that values vision over a massive paycheck. He even found a second life behind the turntables, spinning records at festivals across the globe. At 44, he remains as choosy as ever. Knowing that some treasures are meant to be let go, the life he built after the mountain is a masterpiece of his own making, far from the shadows of Mordor. Then there is Viggo Mortensen, our Aragorn, the king in exile, who almost never wore the crown. As cameras were set to roll, someone else held the sword, a younger Irish actor named Stuart Townsend. After weeks of training, Peter Jackson realized with a heavy heart that the piece just did not fit the puzzle. The actor was simply far too young, let go just before the cameras rolled. He left a void that Jackson hoped Viggo Mortensen could fill. Born in Manhattan on October 20th, 1958. Viggo was already 40 and settled in his ways. He almost said no, fearing the long months away from his young son and fellow Tolkien fan, Henry. It was Henry who urged him to go. And with his son's blessing, Viggo was airborne within 24 hours. He arrived on set and became the character in a way that would soon become Hollywood lore. While filming a moment of pure grief in the Two Towers, he shattered his toes against a heavy helmet. That gut-wrenching scream in the movie was real pain, captured forever by Jackson's lens. Even a black eye from a surfing mishap could not stop him. They simply filmed his good side in the dark of Moria. When the journey ended, he bought the 3 horses he had ridden, unable to leave his companions behind. He even outbid the studio to gift a horse to a stunt woman who had bonded with the animal but could not afford it. Post-Aragorn, he garnered 3 Oscar nods for powerhouse roles, like his turn in Eastern Promises. He continues to lead Percival Press and shares his photography with a world that still sees him as a king. He paints and writes, weaving his own verses into abstract canvases that speak of a restless, creative soul. At 66, he's still directing and acting, even hinting that he might one day return to the wild for the right story. Third is Sean Astin, the man who breathed life into Samwise Gamgee, the friend who stood by Frodo through it all, providing the raw heart of the whole trilogy. Samwise Gamgee stood as the story's true moral anchor. He stayed by his friend's side long after logic had vanished into the shadows of the road. Sean Astin built a soul that pulled at our heartstrings more than anyone else in that great fellowship. A child of Santa Monica. He was born on February 25th, 1971. He is the son of the legendary Patty Duke, and later discovered Michael Tell was his biological father. Before The Ring, he was our Mikey in 1985. A bond we carried into 2001 to become Sam. He walked the New Zealand soil barefoot and changed his very frame for the role. He gave everything to a gardener who lifts his friend when the world becomes too heavy to bear. In a beautiful twist of fate, his own daughter, Ali, played his child in the final film's light. That final goodbye felt like a home movie. And since then, Astin has always stayed close to us. From marathons in 2012 to winning our hearts as Bob Newby in Stranger Things, his journey continued. It was a role that made a whole new generation fall in love with his kindness. His own life story, full of family secrets and public grace, has been shared with us over time, now 54. He remains a constant, friendly face from those magical days in Middle-earth. You can still find him at fan gatherings, forever tied to the beautiful world those films created. Number 4 is Orlando Bloom, the young archer who captured lightning at the start of his career. He moved with a supernatural lightness that seemed like a gift. A perfect fit for a rising star. Born on January 13, 1977, in Canterbury, England. His life was about to change forever. He was fresh out of drama school in London when the call for the fellowship finally came. Only 22 when cameras rolled. He even braved a broken rib after a fall from his horse. Instead of pausing, he tightened his gear and kept filming, showing the grit beneath the elven grace. Later, he sailed the seas in Pirates of the Caribbean and fought the Trojan War as Handsome Paris. He spent years in the bright lights of big studios, always working, but perhaps searching for more. Eventually, he turned toward deeper waters, choosing complex stage roles and intense stories for the small screen, through every peak and valley. The public eye never truly left his side. He found love with Katy Perry in 2019, and they welcomed a daughter the very next year. At 48, he is still evolving, proving there is much more to him than just a bow and arrow. Number 5 is John Rhys Davies, the mighty warrior who gave the dwarf his fire and humor. He famously skipped the group tattoo, a lone wolf among his brothers in the fellowship. As the shortest traveler with the loudest doubts, he initially trusted no one but himself. Born on May 5th, 1944, in Salisbury. His road to the mountains was a long one. He was already a legend to us as Sala in the Indiana Jones films, long before Middle-earth. At 55, he spent grueling hours every single morning under layers of heavy movie magic. The thick beard and facial pieces caused a painful skin reaction that he hid from the world. He suffered in silence to bring the dwarf to life, a struggle rarely mentioned in the glossy accounts. Most fans never realized he also breathed life into the ancient, wooden voice of Treebeard, playing 2 roles in one epic story. He was both the stone and the forest. He did it all without demanding the spotlight for both characters at the same time. When his brothers gathered for their matching ink, he quietly chose to walk a different path. Instead, it was his stunt double, Brett Beatty, who carried that mark forever on his skin. Now 81, his booming voice and commanding presence still grace our screens today. Known for his strong mind and heart, his Gimli remains a masterclass in physical storytelling. Number 6 is Sean Bean, our noble and tragic Boromir. This proud son of Gondor nearly lost his soul to the Gold's dark promise. He fell before the first journey ended, leaving a legacy of sacrifice in the woods. Boromir stood alone as the Fellowship traveler most haunted by that golden weight. His journey from soldier to martyr left us with a heart-wrenching goodbye. Sheffield saw Sean Bean start on April 17, 1959. Before the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art, he worked his father's welding shop. Fame found him in Sharp and a cold-blooded turn in Goldeneye. That was just the prologue before Middle-earth made him a household name. Deep in New Zealand's peaks, a quiet terror of flight shadowed him. One terrifying helicopter ride was enough. He vowed never to fly again. He climbed toward the clouds by ski lift draped in Gondorian steel. Sword in hand, he trekked the final miles to the snowy set. High above the cast, watched a lonely warrior march through the pines. A famous internet joke counts over 25 tragic ends for him. From Boromir's arrows to Winterfell's tragedy, death followed him on screen. By 2019, he began avoiding scripts where his light finally faded. He sought a surprise ending. His own life saw 5 previous unions. He wed Ashley Moore in 2017 and remains a vibrant 65. He led an underworld family in the 2025 BBC drama. Billy Boyd and Dominic Monaghan gave heart to our favorite Hobbit pair. Their bond spanned 3 films, growing into something truly rare and real. Pippin and Merry were the innocents who never saw the shadow coming. Their journey home changed them most. Boyd arrived from the Glasgow docks. Boyd arrived. August 28, 1968. Monaghan saw Berlin years later. Classic theater training prepared them for the journey at 30 and 22. They had no idea how vastly their small lives would soon expand. Their closeness on camera mirrored a lifelong brotherhood forged in the Shire. After the journey, Boyd returned to the stage for many years. In 2014, he sang a final farewell to the Mountain King's Gold. It was a melodic end to 13 years of Middle-earth magic. Monaghan found new life on a mysterious island in the series Lost. In 2024, they stood together at a fan gathering in Liverpool. That morning news came that their beloved king, Theoden, had passed away. At 79, Hill left a heavy silence where he once stood. Aston shared with teary eyes that a dear patriarch had finally departed. Boyd marveled at the grace Hill brought to those ancient scripted tongues. At 57 and 48, they remain as inseparable as hobbits. Ian Holm was the legendary Bilbo, the first to find the ring. He carried a long history of excellence across the British cinematic landscape. Passing the torch to Frodo, he became a memory of older days. Born in 1931, he shone brightly as a star for decades. One evening in 1976, his world shifted in a heartbeat. A heavy panic seized him during a play ending his stage life. He walked away from the lights, finding a new sanctuary in film. This rebirth gave us iconic roles in Alien and Chariots of Fire. Few realized that long ago he had voiced the younger Frodo Baggins. He simply grew into the elder version of a hero he knew. The year 2007 brought a quiet, heavy diagnosis of Parkinson's that would change everything for him. 88 years of brilliance ended on June 19, 2020. Within the walls of a London hospital, while Parkinson's took its toll, his family found comfort knowing his final moments were spent in absolute peace. Harold Pinter, who cherished home as his favorite leading man, had left this world 11 years prior. Their souls spoke one language. Now we find Cate Blanchett, the radiant elf queen Galadriel, a constant light through the entire trilogy. She is the voice that invites us in, haunting the first moments we ever spent in Middle-earth. Through her narration, Galadriel becomes the literal soul of the film's first breaths within that magical realm. The woman behind that voice was already legendary for the fierce, transformative energy she brought to every frame. Born May 14th, 1969, in Melbourne, Australia. Her journey to the screen began in the Southern Sun, joining the set at 31. She was already a decorated star, carrying both a BAFTA and Golden Globe. Those honors celebrated her 1998 turn as England's Virgin Queen, a role she mastered at 28. With just a few scenes, she made Galadriel feel like a titan who had lived for ages. Her performance provided a heavy, grounded reality that allowed the entire film's mythology to feel truly lived in. Post-trilogy, her legend only grew, eventually earning 2 Oscars as she continued to redefine what acting means. Victory came with The Aviator in 2005, followed by another Golden Statuette for Blue Jasmine. In the years between, she and Andrew Upton stepped away to guide the artistic soul of Sydney's theater. Between 2008 and 13, she focused on the stage, a quiet commitment often overlooked by Hollywood. By 2023, her work in Tar brought another Oscar nomination and cemented her timeless legacy. Today, at 55, she stands as a beacon of excellence. Arguably the finest actor of our modern era, Galadriel will soon return in The Hunt for Gollum, proving her immortal journey in Middle-earth is far from over. Next, we have Andy Serkis, the man who breathed life into Gollum, a soul withered by centuries of obsession. Now, leading the saga as director, he reminds us that Gollum was originally meant to be purely digital. They imagined a creature born entirely from code. Serkis injected such raw humanity into the part that the visual effects team threw out their original blueprints. London, born on April 20th, 1964. Serkis was 37 when he first stepped into this legendary trilogy, inhabiting a broken physique. He used motion capture to manifest the creature's pain from deep within his own, moving beyond mere costumes. His visceral acting was so magnetic that it forced animators to rethink their craft. His every twitch became the digital soul of the character. Moving from mere reference to the actual performance, that performance shattered the ceiling of what movie magic could achieve, changing the industry's future forever. He transformed digital effects into a legitimate acting discipline, proving the soul matters more than the pixels. From King Kong in 2005 to the Apes trilogy, he continued to evolve this new cinematic language. He became a vocal champion for his craft, insisting that digital performances are acting in its purest form. He challenged the Academy to look past the technology and recognize the raw human emotion at the core. His passion led him to found the Imaginarium, a studio where technology and storytelling become one, for his directorial debut in 2018. He used those same digital tools to bring the jungle alive. Now 61. Serkis is stepping back into the shadows to direct the highly anticipated Hunt for Gollum, slated for 2026. This return to the world Peter Jackson built feels like coming home again. By acting and directing at once, he holds a unique crown in Hollywood that no one else can claim. 11 brings us the towering Christopher Lee as Saruman, the once noble wizard who surrendered to the darkness. As the only cast member to ever meet Tolkien, he brought an authentic weight to the wizard's tragic fall. That betrayal cut deep, reflecting a gravitas Lee possessed since his birth on May 27th, 1922. Premiere night found him 79 years old. A former Second World War intelligence officer turned cinematic icon, when Jackson tried to direct his final moments, Lee quietly revealed he had seen real-life horrors far worse. Drawing from a past deeper than Hollywood, he followed his own truth. Though he secretly dreamed of Gandalf, he sent photos in wizard robes to Jackson. But the role went to a much younger Ian McKellen, accepting Saruman with grace. He never breathed a word of public disappointment. His performance carried the immense weight of a man who knew the legends by heart decades earlier. Lee met J.R.R. Tolkien at the very pub where the stories began. He often spoke of that day, recalling how the author's presence nearly knocked him over. He was stunned to see the creator, a gentle man puffing on a pipe, walking through the door. To Lee, Tolkien was a rustic soul. Thus, he revisited Middle-earth once every single year. He stood alone as the only person on set who had actually met the legend himself, year after year. Without fail, he walked those literary paths again. On a quiet June evening in 2015, the great actor rested in a London hospital. His son-in-law, Juaneros, stayed by him. When the film appeared on television, Lee began explaining the movie magic to the nursing staff. After the credits rolled, his family left, fully expecting to see him the next morning. Lee slipped away that night at 93, leaving a legacy his family thought was immortal. Then there is Ian McKellen, the wizard who, at 86, still refuses to let go. The wizard fell in darkness, only to return even more powerful. That rhythm of rebirth defined the man born in Lancashire on May 25th, 1939, a night since 1990. He was 60 when he first stepped into the Shire in 1999. In 1988, he bravely spoke his truth to the world on live radio. He stood against laws designed to keep his identity hidden from the world. Living honestly was the spark that finally sent his career into the stratosphere. He stepped into the wizard's boots after mastering every great tragic hero of the stage. Success followed him to the screen, earning him back-to-back Academy Award nods. Yet, Middle-earth offered a brand of magic that the theater could never touch. He became a face known globally, a legend to every child watching at home. He balanced the mystical with the modern, mastering both ancient magic and comic book style. He wears the mark of the Fellowship on his skin, forever tied to his brothers, facing a battle with illness since 2006. He recently described his condition as managed and contained. It is merely a companion on his walk, never the master of his soul. During a London performance of Player Kings in June 2024, he suddenly tumbled from the stage. He suffered broken bones and a battered spirit. The following months were a grueling test of his absolute endurance. Unable to fly, he missed his 2025 film premiere at the Toronto Film Festival. Now 86, he still finds ways to connect with those who love him. He speaks of the final curtain with a wit that only a veteran possesses. Death does not scare him. He simply refuses to stop until the lights dim. He plans to return to New Zealand in 2026 to walk the paths of Middle-earth once more. A wizard who fell and returned, played by a veteran who has done the same for 60 years. It seems his journey isn't over yet.